She thought she could control him forever. 10 years of marriage, built on trust and love, shattered in a single evening. She told him she needed space, but behind those words hid a deeper truth. He didn't beg, he didn't plead, he simply let go. But here's what she never expected. Freedom can feel a lot like loneliness, and indifference can be the most painful revenge. While she embraced her new life, he quietly disappeared from hers. And by the time she realized it, it was already too late. What happens when the person who once gave you everything suddenly stops caring? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. Fiona and I had been married for 10 years, a decade woven together not just by shared memories, but by real experiences that had shaped us. We met in college, our lives slowly intertwining from nothing, built brick by brick through struggles and triumphs. We weathered financial hardships side by side, celebrating every small success and supporting each other through every setback. I had never been under any illusions. Marriage wasn't a never-ending stream of bliss. But I had believed, with absolute certainty, that what we had was unshakable. That belief shattered in an instant, undone by a single phrase she uttered one evening. We sat at the dinner table, the sound of silverware against porcelain, the only thing breaking the silence. I had cooked spaghetti, her favorite. She barely touched her plate. At first, I thought she was just exhausted from work, burdened by stress. She seemed distracted, her movements slow and absent-minded as she twirled pasta around her fork without ever bringing it to her lips. Lowering my glass, I studied her carefully. "Fiona, are you okay?" She released a long breath, her gaze fixed downward. And then, in a voice that seemed to pull the air straight from my lungs, she said, "Xander, I need some space." The words felt foreign, as if they belonged to someone else, spoken in a language I didn't understand. I set my fork down, leaning slightly forward. "Space?" She nodded, still avoiding my eyes. "Yeah." Her voice was steady, her tone unwavering. I need to be on my own for a while. I need to figure things out." A heavy silence settled between us. My mind raced, trying to grasp the meaning behind what she had just said. Figure things out? Independence? From what? We had never lived in some stifling, oppressive bubble. She had always made her own choices, moved freely, lived without restrictions. I had never been possessive, never interrogated her about where she went or who she spent time with. I never pried into her phone or hovered over her like some jealous shadow. Our marriage had always been built on trust. So why was she suddenly asking for something she already had? Independence from what? My voice remained measured, but there was a sharp edge beneath the calm. She gave a weak shrug, still refusing to meet my eyes. "I don't know. I just feel stuck." Her words carried no emotion, no anger or sadness, only a detached emptiness, as though she had rehearsed this conversation over and over before finally bringing herself to say it. Stuck. That was new. Just weeks ago, we had talked about the future, about moving into a bigger house, maybe even starting a family. She had smiled at the thought. And now, suddenly, she was trapped? I could have demanded an explanation, pushed her for answers, fought to fix whatever problem had surfaced without warning. But I didn't. Because deep inside, I knew. This wasn't about space. It wasn't about independence. Something else was at play. And so, instead of clinging to her, I did the last thing she expected. I let go. "All right," I said, leaning back in my chair. She hesitated, her grip tightening around her fork. "Wait. What? You need space? Take it." Her eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by how easily I agreed. I could see it, the flicker of uncertainty, the brief flash of doubt. This wasn't the reaction she had expected. Maybe she had anticipated resistance, pleas, a desperate attempt to keep her from slipping away. Maybe she had wanted to feel irreplaceable. But I refused to play that role. And for the briefest moment, something shifted in her expression. Perhaps she had imagined a scenario where she could ask for distance while keeping me tethered, waiting, ready to catch her if she decided to return. But that wasn't going to happen. That night, everything between us changed. At first, she seemed almost liberated. She started going out more, staying out later. Her wardrobe changed, new dresses, higher heels, styles she had never worn before. And then there was her phone. Before, she had left it lying around, untouched and unlocked, notifications flashing freely. Now, it was always in her hand, always buzzing. And if I walked into the room, she would tilt the screen away or lock it immediately. I said nothing. I stopped asking where she was going, stopped waiting up for her when she came home late, stopped checking in. And she barely seemed to notice. For a while, she thought she had won. But people who chase freedom rarely anticipate how empty it feels when they finally have it. And that's exactly what started happening. The cracks appeared gradually, small, almost imperceptible at first, a hesitation where there had once been confidence, a flicker of uncertainty in her movements. And then, one night, she stumbled through the front door well past midnight. The woman who stood before me was no longer the Fiona I had known, the one who used to send a quick text if she was running late, the one who used to slip into bed carefully so she wouldn't wake me. This version of her entered our home like she owed no one an explanation, bracing herself as if expecting an argument. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, completely at ease. I didn't look up right away, but I could feel her watching me, waiting for a reaction. After a moment, she shifted, crossing her arms. "You're not even going to ask where I was?" I glanced at her briefly, before turning my attention back to my screen. No. That wasn't the answer she was expecting. Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was trying to determine whether I was serious. She had wanted freedom, and she had it. But maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to realize that freedom felt an awful lot like loneliness. She lingered a moment longer, as if daring me to react. When I didn't, she let out a quiet, exasperated sigh, rolling her eyes before turning toward the bedroom. But just before she disappeared down the hall, I caught a glimpse of something, an instant of frustration, barely concealed. She wanted me to push back, to prove that I still cared. But I didn't. And in that brief moment, she realized it. Something between us had shifted. A week later, things escalated. Fiona's texts became more frequent, but they weren't the usual reminders or mundane requests. No mentions of picking up groceries, no casual check-ins about household chores. Instead, she wanted to know where I was. The first time, I was out with friends when my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. "Where are you?" I read the message and set my phone down without responding. An hour later, another text arrived. "Are you coming home soon?" I ignored that one too. For months, I had been little more than an afterthought in her world. And now, suddenly, she was keeping tabs on me? The irony almost made me laugh. The next evening, as I was getting ready to go out again, the shift became undeniable. I had just finished buttoning my shirt when Fiona appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, leaning against the frame. Her eyes followed my movements. "Where are you going?" she asked, trying to sound indifferent, but the tension in her voice was impossible to miss. "Out," I answered, fastening my watch. Her brow creased. "With who?" I smirked, picking up my keys. "Why does it matter?" She hesitated, visibly caught off guard. I didn't think you'd start pulling away like this." And there it was. The moment of realization. The illusion she had carefully crafted was beginning to fracture. For weeks, she had pretended my absence made no difference, but now she was on the receiving end of that same indifference. And she hated it. But the truth was, I didn't. For the first time, I wasn't waiting. I wasn't wondering. I wasn't wasting energy on someone who had already moved on in every way except in name. She had wanted space. Now she had it. And only now did she understand that it wasn't what she wanted at all. Then, it happened. Fiona had left her phone on the coffee table before stepping into the kitchen. Normally, she kept it locked. Not this time. I hadn't been searching for anything, hadn't intended to invade her privacy, but as I glanced at the screen, a message popped up. I miss you. When can I see you again? The words glowed against the dark screen, cutting through whatever remnants of hope I hadn't realized I was still holding on to. My stomach tightened, but my expression remained unreadable. No anger, no surprise, just confirmation of what I had suspected all along. She never needed space. She never needed time to think. That had all been a carefully woven lie, one she had fed to both of us. What she had truly wanted was the freedom to explore someone else without losing the security I provided. She wanted options, a fallback plan, a husband waiting in the wings while she entertained something new. And now, for the first time, she was realizing she had miscalculated. I stared at the screen a moment longer but didn't reach for the phone. I didn't scroll through her messages or try to figure out how long it had been going on. Because in that moment, everything was clear. I didn't care anymore. Whoever he was, whatever had been happening, it no longer mattered. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a confrontation. I wouldn't ask her who he was, how long it had been, or why she had done it. I already knew the answer. She had convinced herself she could have both. That I would always be there, waiting, while she tested the waters elsewhere. But she had already lost me. And now, she was the one with something to lose. The next morning, I didn't hesitate. I got dressed, grabbed my car keys, and drove straight to a lawyer's office. There was no doubt, no second guessing. I had made my decision the night before. This marriage was over. The lawyer was efficient, all business. I told him exactly what I wanted, a clean break. No drawn-out battles, no unnecessary drama, just signatures, paperwork, and my freedom. He nodded, asked a few questions, and started drafting the documents. By the time I walked out of his office, the process was already in motion. I drove home, knowing Fiona wouldn't be there. The night before, she had mentioned running errands, and for once, I was grateful. I didn't want to see her. I walked inside and wasted no time. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Only the essentials, clothes, toiletries, a few personal items. Moving through the house, I saw how deeply our lives had been intertwined. But there was no nostalgia, no hesitation, no regret. Before I left, I made one last stop in the kitchen. I opened the drawer where we kept our important documents and pulled out our marriage certificate. I stared at it for a moment, absorbing the weight of everything it represented. Then, without a second thought, I tore it in half and placed the pieces in the center of the table. That was my farewell. With my suitcase in hand, I stepped out the door and never looked back. That evening, I checked into a hotel, and for the first time in a long while, I felt free. The stillness of the room wasn't suffocating. It was a quiet relief. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of ownership over my own life. It was as if I had finally taken the wheel, steering toward something that was mine alone. A couple of hours after settling in, my phone buzzed. Fiona. I let it ring. Then it rang again, and again. The messages followed. Xander, where are you? Why is your stuff gone? Please, talk to me. I didn't respond. She would find out soon enough. A few days later, she was served with the divorce papers. It wasn't long before my phone started vibrating again. This time, I chose to answer. The moment the call connected, her voice poured through, frantic, urgent. Xander, what is this? What are you doing? I leaned back, unwavering. Ending this. Her breath caught. You're serious? Completely. Silence stretched between us before she finally spoke, her tone shifting, soft, pleading. "Xander, please. Can we just talk? Whatever this is, we can fix it." A humorless chuckle escaped me. "Fix it? You are the problem, Fiona. And I know." Another pause. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, "Know what?" I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't soften the impact. I told her the truth, cold and sharp. "I know you've been cheating." A sharp inhale. "Xander, I didn't let her finish. "That's why you needed space, right? That's why you wanted independence? To figure things out?" I exhaled, already drained by this conversation. Turns out I needed space too, and I figured out that I don't need you. The tears started, calculated and performative. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. "That's your problem now." "Xander, please don't do this." I said nothing. I ended the call and blocked her number. Then I shut off my phone, leaned back in my chair, and for the first time in years, I smiled. My life was finally mine again. The divorce was swift, no dragged-out fights, no last-ditch efforts to hold on. She didn't contest it, probably knowing she had no real ground to stand on. When it was over, I moved forward. A new job came along, and for the first time, I was living for myself. Months passed. Fiona became nothing more than a distant memory, a lesson learned. Then, one evening, I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked different. Not bad, just worn, like someone who had spent too much time chasing something that was never really there. She saw me first, hesitated, then, as if deciding there was nothing left to lose, walked over. "Xander." Her voice was cautious, her smile small. I acknowledged her with a nod. "Fiona." Her gaze flickered to my cart before returning to my face. "You look good." "Thanks." I didn't return the compliment. She shifted on her feet, exhaled, then spoke. "Look, I wanted to say I'm sorry." I raised an eyebrow. "For what exactly?" She swallowed. "For everything. For taking you for granted. For making the worst mistake of my life." A pause. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added, "It didn't work out with him." I nearly laughed. "Of course it didn't." She took a deep breath. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but maybe we could try again?" I studied her for a long moment before shaking my head. "No, Fiona. We can't." Her face fell. "Xander, please." I cut her off. "You lost me, and there's no coming back from that." Her shoulders sagged. She looked like she had more to say, but simply nodded, blinking back tears. "I get it." I gave her one last look before turning away. As I left the store, I felt no anger, no regret, just freedom. This story has come to an end. In relationships, trust is not an endless resource. When one person decides to take a break, they must be prepared for the other to learn how to live without them. Love is not something you can put on hold while searching for something better. This story is a lesson about the value of loyalty and the consequences of betrayal. Sometimes, when you think you can leave and come back anytime, you realize you've been left behind alone. Don't play with someone's feelings. Don't destroy what took years to build, because not every door stays open forever. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you